Welcome to 30 for 30 and 30, where we are talking about every 30 for 30. And in our second episode, we are talking about the band that wouldn't die, as we talk about the Colts marching band of Baltimore as they continue to play on despite the team moving to Indianapolis. The directors, Barry Levinson. And we start out with Ken Ryland of the Mayflower Moving Company, as he is told to come to a specific location. He knows no specifics, and he is supposed to estimate a job on how many trucks and people it will take to move the supplies. I would like to introduce Ryan and Nicholas to the show. How are you doing, boys?
Good. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Brad.
I'm, I'm super happy to be here. I'm super pumped. Can I pose a question first about the first scene about how the documentary opens up? Because I don't know a lot about how things happen when people sell football teams, but I never just in general and in the way that things are. But I didn't know that football teams had to like move like the family from Toy Story. Like I didn't understand what's the truckloads of shit? What are we bringing? Pads?
I think pads, helmets,
footballs, sleds, footballs,
sleds. They don't have that in Indianapolis. They don't have sleds. They don't have training equipment.
No.
That's how teams moved in the 80s, Nick.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry.
This was
I was just astounded that they were using like it was just like an army of like moving trucks. I don't know. When I think about the selling of a team, I just think about it as a transaction, I guess. It was kind of crazy to see it in physical form.
Yeah, and you had the general manager of formerly the Baltimore Colts. He was like, I'm surprised they didn't get the National Guard and because of how loud it was.
Aiming bazookas at the truck saying,
yeah, bazookas.
Could you imagine if we just had to call in the National Guard anytime something was loud? Like what a scared country.
If you're over a certain decibel rating,
we got to get guns involved. So this fucking concert's out of control.
Yeah.
Call the guard, sir.
What is that, rock music?
It's got to be said too, the old time Colts when they were in Baltimore did look like a cool ass team.
Yeah, for sure. They won a Super Bowl and a championship.
And we will talk about it later.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brad. Continue. We're at the moving trucks.
No.
You're right.
The
and
Mayflower.
Then we jump.
By the way, let's
continue.
Yes, Ryan. Yes, Ryan.
Let's give a big shout out to Mayflower Moving. If your team needs to get the fuck out of here, call Mayflower.
If your team needs to leave early in the morning without anyone knowing, call Mayflower.
That is like it's a desperate, last minute move. It is kind of like pilgrims coming to the new land. They're like, oh shit, we got to get out of here in the night. We got to sneak around Mayflower. It all works.
I mean, okay, I know we're gonna talk about the whole story, but I don't think the movie ever tells you why it had to be in the early hours of a random day. I just think it's so crazy. Like what?
It didn't really look back, did it?
No, it didn't.
Did Mr. Ur say the owners like, get the fuck out of here? Shit.
Maybe he did. Maybe like the whole thing really was just like a drunk decision, and he called it like 2 a.m. and he was like, "Do it now, and they were just like, all right, "Okay, fuck." 12 moving trucks. Here we go.
Just like his son said in a story in the show where tells his son to go to Indianapolis, and then his son calls him the next day, and he's like, "Why the fuck are you in Indianapolis? Well, you told me to." He's Mr.
All right, I'll call you back.
He had some issues. But yeah, after the Mayflower Moving Company intro, we jump to the Colt Chorale members, which was led by John Zeman, the band president, where they are quoted saying how difficult it was. They're saying it was like their wife was leaving with someone else. And occasionally you see her on the street and you'd see them on TV, but you couldn't watch because it hurt too much. It was like losing your best friend, and they were crying. You could see how passionate that these Colts marching band members were for the team, and
I
how losing
giggled.
them was.
I laughed. Honestly, I laughed when the guy was like, "It was like your wife divorced you," and I was like, "You've never gone through a divorce." Okay, gotcha.
You don't know.
Yeah, hey, look here, buddy. You've got stable marriage written all over you.
Now, me, Nick, 26, I've been through some divorces. And let me tell you, I'd rather the twins leave than go through another one of those puppies. Woo!
Yeah. That would hurt you to the core if the twins left.
I couldn't imagine seeing like the fucking like Charleston twins. It would suck, honestly. It would really suck to have a team like I've been following my whole life, like the Twins or the Wolves. Sure, the Timberwolves. If they left
Wolves, baby.
to a different city and then started winning,
Ooh.
Oh god.
that would be extremely depressing. So, and that's a realization I just had.
If the Wolves that would rock me to my. I would probably follow them, but that would just gut me.
If the Timberwolves went to if the Timberwolves went to Charleston, South Carolina, you'd follow them.
That'd be tough.
I
was thinking like Seattle, where it's like kind
somewhere
of a cool place. Actually, I guess I don't know about Charleston, South Carolina. What is there to do in Charleston, South Carolina?
We're not saying anything bad about our fans in Charleston, South Carolina. Great place. Great place.
Love them.
Yeah.
God bless
Such a culture down there.
It's just a city I know that doesn't have a sports team, which could be a good thing about that city.
Does South Carolina have a sports team of any?
The better cities are typically ones with sports teams. At least one.
Yeah, take that, Charleston, South Carolina.
Fuck off, Charleston.
We're making enemies in the second episode, baby.
Hell yeah! You're from Charleston? Get the fuck out of here. We don't want your ears.
Anyways, after we learn about the Colts Corral members and Mr. Zeman, he starts telling a story about the uniforms and how the uniforms were the only things that weren't at the facility during the move. They were actually at a dry cleaners. And so once they find that out, they try any way they can to get these uniforms. So they call up a lawyer, and their lawyer tells them that they should contact the cleaners directly. So Mr. Zeman calls the cleaners.
Can I pitch in here? This is how you know that these are just a bunch of band nerds. Because anybody with their right mind is like, go to the cleaners, talk to him, steal him if he doesn't give it to you. Like that's what you do. Like just such a bunch of band geeks.
I'm gonna contact my lawyer.
You gotta take the van for a walk.
Yeah, and they didn't get it. They're like, "What do you mean?" And the guy's like, "You gotta take
a truck for a walk." Damn it, John! Take a truck for a walk. And I didn't get what I meant.
Nerds steal the uniforms. And then the guy was worried because he was like, "Well, I didn't want him to be in my house, they could charge me with something, so I had to disrespect this guy's family's final resting place."
Yeah, they put him in a mausoleum.
In a mausoleum, in a graveyard.
I was furious. I was like, you're a nerd. You're a square. You can't hold on to band uniform. That's cool. That's like a badass thing to have.
I picture the family that had the mausoleum, and when they find that out, they're like, "You disrespected our family's resting place to put band uniforms in."
The guy says that. He's like, the family still talks to me. And I'm like, yeah, of course they do.
Yeah, just
that's a
put them
ridiculous thing to do. Yeah, what the hell?
Go ahead and be a badass for once. Actually, just this whole story, John Zeman and his wife Charlene, they're both badasses.
Just nerds. And like the band is awesome. I'm glad they stuck around, but like that story just made me upset because I'm like, you're such a square. Just have the uniforms, and then you parade around in them a year later, so it's obviously no big deal.
Well, that is because Mrs. Ursay, the wife of the owner, did work with them to get it. But that's after all that ridiculous shenanigans that they went through.
Right.
But after the uniform story, we then cut to a little piece of the past as they show you a little bit of why the Colts, the Baltimore Colts, were so special, because they were part of the quote greatest game ever played. In the 1958 NFL Championship, the Baltimore Colts played the New York Giants, and Johnny Unitas did a 2-minute drill before the 2-minute drill was even a thing to tie up the game, and then the Baltimore Colts hit a fullback 1-yard run to win the title and defeat their enemy, the New
Hands the
York
ball to
Giants.
Amici. Amici scores it.
And this
He
is what
ran
they
into the end
consider
zone
the
and into the
marriage
future.
of the football and TV.
Yeah, that was the first time somebody was like, "Wow, we can make a shit ton of money." Ba-ba-doo-ba-doo-boo-ba.
This
And it was the
football
first time
sport's
anybody
kind of interesting.
yeah, they were like, "Wow, look at that. It's not just a bunch of white dudes running into the sand," which is what it was before.
This game pairs pretty well with TV. Who knew?
We can make money off of this.
And we can just chock it full of commercials because there's breaks every 10 seconds.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
It would have been crazy though, like the way that like to be in that stadium, and like for football to be just kind of like everyone's still there, so they obviously still like football, but to then see that type of football, it would have been mind-blowing. I mean, could you imagine if you were there for the first time, somebody like shot a soccer ball from outside of the box into the goal? Like everyone must have like shit a brick.
True. Seeing, the first thing
Metaphorically
ever.
speaking.
But also what you see in the video is the fans storming and then carrying the players off. I've always wanted to be a part of one of those.
I was.
Now pro sports especially, there's no fan storming. You see that in college, but I just want to storm a field and just carry a player off on my shoulders.
I was a part of one field storming when NDSU won their first national championship game. And I don't really care about NDSU sports, but I was there and I was like, well, everybody's storming the field. I want to storm the field too.
Hell yeah.
Well, everyone else is doing it. I might as well.
Yeah. Oh, sure. If you ask me to jump off a bridge, I'll do it. If one other person's doing it.
At least one other person has to.
So, Ryan, when you were storming the field, though, like I got to know, like, what? So after the initial, like, and you're like out there and you're running, and then what? And then what happened? Then everyone just kind of walked out the tunnel.
Yeah. Then we just kind of turned around from where we came, so we kind of knew which entrance we went back in, and were able to find our car pretty easily. Yeah, there was nothing. Believe me, I would have loved to climb onto one of the field goals, but
oh yeah, that's what I wanted, like a big field goal tipping and
bring that sucker down.
I think I could scale a field goal pretty easily.
You think you could bring her down?
No, I
bring her down.
Come on, Brad. I don't weigh that much.
Oh, chubby boy. But yeah, after the greatest game ever played, you cut back to more of the band members as they were saying how the title put Baltimore on the map finally, because before their most famous in pro sports individual was a woman named Toots Berger, a duck pin bowler.
Let's not brush past Toots for even a second here, because she was a dominant force in duck pin bowling.
And the picture they showed of her was just like, it was classic. It was like the only picture we had, and it was her mid bowl, and she still had like an excited photo. Yeah, she still had like an excited face.
Yeah, of course she did. She was like a duck pin bowling icon. Won several national championships in the 60s.
I rewound it multiple times because I was like, he said 10 pin bowling, right? But he keeps saying, is it duck pin?
Yeah, no, that
I think duck pin is the name. I googled it. I think it's duck pin.
It is duck pin.
I
wasn't aware it was a sport until watching this, but it was duck pin for sure.
Ryan, please take us through an in-depth review of duck pin bowling.
Did you look it up?
Yeah, I looked it up. You didn't?
Yeah. No.
Now, It's a different type of pin. They're shorter. They're wider though, and the lane is much closer to you, but you have a smaller ball. And Toots Barger was just an icon in the field,
just crushing it, right?
Yeah.
For Baltimore.
Yeah. Oh, she into the 1980s. She was in her heyday in the
New
50s
York
and 60s.
had Mickey Mantle, but Baltimore had Toots.
Yeah, hell yeah. New York had the Empire State Building. Baltimore had the Brahma Seltzer Tower.
Oh,
I did like how
Baltimore, but
they
finally-
they explained in this documentary that New York is a big city
Yeah.
and Baltimore isn't as big of a city.
No.
They really had to point that out.
That's right. Which I appreciate. I had no idea before watching this.
God, I would love to go duck bowling though. Now that you described it.
Duck pin bowling.
Yeah,
Duck
no,
pin
it
bowling.
seems there's a spot in Milwaukee. I looked this up. We could do it sometime post COVID, and I'd like to do it too. Brad, what
You're telling me
what
the
days work for
nearest-
you?
The nearest
in a couple
duck
months.
pin bowling is in Milwaukee.
Yeah. Well, I didn't look it up in
Oh.
Minneapolis.
Of course it's in Milwaukee. Oh, you go duck pin bowling now.
Yeah.
Just short little pins. You can get drunker. There you go.
Anything to get drunk on. But no,
It does sound like you could.
the marching band then continues, and they talk about one of my favorite sections, the super fan, Hurst C. Loudenslager, aka
Rip.
Loudy. First, yeah, let's rip him. He was an OG Colts fan there.
The man made birthday cakes for all the players.
Yeah,
That
he made a
was
birthday
his-
cake.
He was buried in a Colts uniform. He's a diehard. Are you kidding me? I love that guy.
He's number one. He was in the stadium. He was in the Baltimore Colts stadium when they had their first game in Indianapolis. He was the only one in the Baltimore stadium when the team had left. He is a true man.
That's a heartbreaking story.
Oh,
I bet there's some fact that makes it less heartbreak. I bet he was jerking off.
Well, if you're in an
Just
empty
alone in
if
the-
you're in an empty stadium, what are you gonna do, Nick?
What are you gonna
What, are you
do?
just
He was
gonna
super
sit there?
sad and
Come on.
alone and in the
Ooh.
football stadium. He's like, "Oh, this could be a cool place to jerk off."
It turns
But-
out, you guys, I've got a pretty
The
good in
birthday
on a
ca-
great spot to jerk off.
It's like everybody's watching you, but nobody's watching you. It's perfect. The birthday cake for every player is really something that we should try to do for a team. I think that's a really cool gesture,
Yeah.
and I for sure think every player would eat the cake. I don't think any player.
I want to know, how do you start that? You know, if
That's a real hot take, Nick.
you're a
Yeah,
big
what's the-
Los Angeles Lakers
Every
fan.
player's gonna eat their birthday cake.
You're a big LA Lakers fan, so you come up to their front office with a birthday cake. Yes, I have a cake for LeBron James. Please let me in.
Yeah, they go, okay, yeah, we'll show you. We'll bring you to the locker room, and then they bring you to this padded room that they have for everybody, and it says Lakers all over it, and you go, wow, yeah. And then you eat the cake
LeBron
and you
comes
go
in
away.
and he's like, "Oh, thanks, man."
Hey,
LeBron, birthday
your
your ass
ass
cake.
have
have
any birthday cake? No,
man.
I'm actually trying to watch my figure. You know, I spend like $1.5 million a year on my body.
I wish I spent $1.5 million a year on my body.
God, I
Well,
wish
Brad
you
and I
spent
do.
$10 a year on your body. At least something, please. Oh, okay. As we then continue,
Hang on,
We
I want to
start,
hear how
we-
much Nick spends on his body per year.
I'm confused by the question because, like, what could be an expenditure that I could credit to my body?
Anything
Like-
that keeps you in shape.
In shape?
in
Mhm.
shape.
Okay, so I spent $30 on shoes, so that's $30 this year.
Shoes here.
when you're reaching as far as shoes, you know there's not a lot going for you.
Shoes, and I in shape. I don't know. I bought bigger pants so that they make me look more in shape. Could that count?
Oh, that counts for sure.
Okay.
That for sure.
So we're
counts.
talking like $250 a year.
That's a lot. That's almost $20 a month.
I think that's still more than James Harden, huh?
Oh, okay.
Take that.
That's a basketball joke too.
Oh boy, is this
We're
guy
making
NBA
enemies.
Twitter or what?
Charleston, South Carolina, James Harden. Watch out. 30 for 30 and 30. We're hot.
Okay,
Oh,
James
yeah.
Harden cannot be insulted by that. He's a legit fat person.
Yeah, no, he's put on some lbs.
He's
But
fat.
he's still
he loves strip
producing.
clubs, but he makes baskets. He's the man. He's the man.
I
Now,
don't like
as
watching him play
as
that much.
we continue here.
Yeah, all right.
We start
Back
to
on
learn
track.
more about the story of the ownership of the Colts and how they started on their journey to move to Indianapolis. So it starts in 1972 when Mr. Robert Irsay trades the LA Rams for the Baltimore Colts. So first of all, I mean, have you ever heard of two people trading sports organizations?
Yeah, and this is coming the year after the Baltimore Colts won the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl. Well, technically, the NFL championship.
It was called the Super Bowl at that point.
Was it really?
I mean, this will get edited out, but it was the Super Bowl at that. It was the Super Bowl since '67, I believe.
Don't edit this out. I want my errors to be in there.
No, Brad, you're flawless. Keep going.
And now we get to my favorite part of the film.
Everyone's favorite part.
Probably everyone's favorite. And I would like to take this part to say the quotes that we will come to.
Mm-hmm.
But first, let me just give everyone the full picture. All right, we're in 1984. There's rumors of the Baltimore Colts moving to either Phoenix, Indianapolis, or somewhere else. And so the mayor of Baltimore has asked Mr. Irsay to fly in and to hold a press conference to try to quell any fears. You know, try to calm down the masses. People are freaking out. You know, we've heard about this band. They love it so much. There's such a love for the team. So people are nervous, okay? So the first thing he does, he comes in and there's a door. It's push or pull, all right? And in this circumstance, it's a pull. But on camera, the man who they quote as saying he was intoxicated, he tries to push again, and eventually the mayor has to tell him it's a pull.
But it works, baby.
Pulls it, he comes through. And he begins one of my favorite press conferences that I have ever seen. And here we go. There he is shown with a bunch of cameras and reporters, some of whom he does not have a good relationship with. And I hope to express that in the quotes that he says. And here we go. He says, "I have not any intention to move the goddamn team. If I did, I would tell you about it, okay? Now, where did you get the goddamn message? If you love the Colts, why don't you treat me right? These guys hang me all the time," as he points to this one reporter especially. "Why'd you hang me for? What'd you do that for?" He says, "All right, we'll get this over real fast," because he knows why he's here. He's here to quell the fears. "I haven't been in Arizona. I've been in 3 to 4 places where I got working machines going of my own company. I haven't been in Phoenix."
Wait.
I was gonna let him go.
It is great. Brad's doing a great job.
This is a great press conference.
But when I was watching this, I was like, I'm so glad that I can't do this, because every time I've been that drunk, I've wanted to hold a press conference.
Oh God, are you kidding me? A drunk press conference?
Yeah, it's like my dream. When I'm hammered
every
too,
time.
I'm like, I want I would call a press conference and be like, all right, everybody, first of all, this bar is bullshit. Mozzarella sticks are supposed to expand and spread, not just snap. All right, fuck this place. I'm out of here. Like, I would love to do that with a bunch of cameras and microphones and stuff. And
This guy's got a whole city looking at him.
He's living the drunk dream right now. He's
Nick, you're one NFL team away from that happening.
Give this guy an NFL team, and we've got good content.
I could turn Jacksonville around.
Hey, we're getting to Jacksonville. My baby, my Jags. Here we go. And we continue. All right. And he's getting more off the rails as we go. He says, I give you my word. I'm a good Catholic. Now, where the hell does all this come from? Who started this? And as one reporter who he for sure does not like raises his hand and tries to talk to him, he says, I don't want to talk to you. And he says it again, I don't want to talk to you. As he points the guy and just going at him. All right. There is bad
slurring the words I'm a good Catholic is maybe the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
And then he finishes with how all this is going. He's like, because of jerks like you put things in the paper that I'm moving the team to Phoenix or Memphis. I have no deal with Phoenix in the world. And then you know that the next day the city of Phoenix comes out and says that they are out of talking with Mr. Irsay with relocation, which means that whole press conference, complete lie, complete drunken lie.
I mean, yeah, you could be like, oh, he's hammered, but he's telling the truth. Like,
in his heart of hearts, I wonder what articles he sent the guy.
Yeah, really. You know what did he send him? What were those articles about?
Didn't somebody ask him at one point, like, what are you referencing to? Because he was like, these guys hang me, and he's like, what are you referencing? And he goes, I'm referencing, read the papers, they hang me.
But he does not say it correctly. He does not say referencing. He just, I mean, it's the drunkest I've ever seen anybody on a TV for, like,
with their own press conference.
Beautiful.
Certainly,
it's beautiful.
It's art.
It's art. Something I'll make my kids watch, because I'm like, this is what the world used to be. This is how cool we used to be. We used to let drunk people on TV.
They used to have a 17-minute press conference.
They should have every team do just regular press conference. Oh, what do you think of the game? And then a drunk press conference like a few hours later. That would be very entertaining.
Yes, exactly. Could you imagine if we could get like a Tom Brady hammered press conference?
I don't even stick to the TB12 diet, really, you guys.
Everyone's mad at me for kissing my son on the lips. I don't get it. It's fucking cool I kiss my son on the lips.
Yeah,
fuck you guys.
One of the best parts of my day is kissing my son on the lips.
If your dad didn't kiss you on the lips, you got a weird family, man. That's all I gotta say. That's a weird family.
One of my favorite things.
Why do you think we fucking lost the game? I threw 4 picks.
We're the Buccaneers. What the fuck? We're the Buccaneers. Hey, that's funny.
Yeah, that's pretty. I'm gonna save that one for next time.
I just dropped my mic. That's how good this podcast is going.
I did that too, a few minutes earlier.
And then after the press conference, and now after the idea of them moving becomes stronger and stronger, the mayor says that he had a gentleman's agreement with Mr. Irsay, saying that Mr. Irsay would tell him personally before any move would actually happen. And I just like, after you see that press conference, you really think that gentleman's agreement is happening?
No, you got to feel for William Donald Schaefer.
The poor man. He's been through the ringer.
He has. And their friendship deteriorated because of it.
He did say they weren't as great of pals after. And I'm sure that was tough, losing a friend. And as we pick up after the press conference, we do see that the team actually does leave for Indianapolis. But we do see how the band sticks together as these band nerds love what they do. They love the energy, they love the camaraderie. As they stick together and they do Preakness every year, they do parades like the 4th of July parade. And then you see in the second year of being teamless that Art Modell, who was the owner of the Cleveland Browns at the time, he hires them to play at the halftime of one of their games.
Oh, they were cheap.
They were cheap, he says. That was a
I
good
think
throwaway line.
a real takeaway from this documentary, I think, is that we can assume that a lot of rich people suck and don't care. When he said that, when he was like, "Yeah, they're cheap," it's like we're doing a heartwarming story about this marching band that like brought back this NFL team, and he's like, "Yeah, they were cheap." I
I think you kind of see it from the first episode we did on King's Ransom that, yeah, I mean, the owners of these teams, they're like, yep, this is business. Fuck all of you. Fans, I don't care about you at all.
Oh, yeah.
This is business.
Give me a bigger stadium or I'm out of here, buddy.
Yeah, because, I mean, Mr. Irsay says that in his press conference in the airport. He's like, treat me right. I'm the owner of the Colts. Treat me right if you want them to stay.
And
I mean,
you're
these
just
people are psycho.
drunk yelling at him.
Oh. And then the band goes on to perform at the Hall of Fame game as the ambassadors of football and music of Baltimore as they try to persuade or at least show the football community and the commissioner, that Baltimore's ready for another one. And what a great last name, the commissioner at the time, Tagliabue? Tagliabue. And they ask him, they're like, so what do you have to say to the people of Baltimore? And he just says, no, I have nothing to say right now. Just
Any word for the Baltimore Colts band that made the trip? Not really.
Nope. Screw.
And they're like the Michael Jackson of marching bands. I guess.
Oh yeah, the best top-rated fight song. A team with a marching band, which not all of them have.
The band members were saying that when they were in elementary school, it would go Pledge of Allegiance, Our Father, and then the fight song.
Yeah.
This was up there with patriotism and God.
Can I say something? In the documentary, they never play the full fight song.
No, that's my one negative comment about this movie. I wish I knew the fight song better. And I was humming it on my way in here. Well, just hum it a little bit more. Let's hear it.
That's what when I heard that, I went, hmm? And then he said the lyrics and he was like, come on, you Colts, go on like lightning bolts. And I'm like, that's the thing that's making grown men cry throughout this whole 50
That's it.
Go
That's
on,
it.
Colts, go on like lightning bolts. And I
Those
like
words. Ooh.
It's kind of a
Like an
tip
angel.
now. If we're ever in Baltimore and we're like, I don't know, something happens at a bar or something, and we can just whip out this song and make grown men cry everywhere we go. I feel like it's a nice little
you're
tip.
getting in a skerfuffle. You're in a skerfuffle in a Baltimore bar. Some guy got in your way. Tensions just started going up, all right? And then you're getting a little nervous. You're just like, ah, shit, we're going to have to throw down. But then your buddy comes in and he just starts singing that Baltimore fight
and
song.
you grab a flag and a baton and your buddy grabs a trumpet and you go, come on, you Colts, go on, like lightning bolts. And the guy just falls to his knees like, oh my God, my dad. We go to the games. Oh man, I get a hot dog.
Life.
I know I'm clearly an old man because the Colts left in '84, but oh God.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Well, they came up with I don't want to step on it, but a Ravens fight song, which I found delightful.
Yeah, you saw them like training in some like they had some footage of them in a not very nice room. I remember it looked like a closet, but they was like, come on, you Ravens, score a touchdown. Yeah, baby, the band lives on. But it's like the same formula for like a fight song, they're always like da 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 da. But I loved having seeing all those people get so emotional over a fight
And
song.
they would talk about how like as they were re-talking about it, they're like, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I'm like, what?
and I'm like, play the song. Please play the
Let's
song.
Go, you Ravens, to flight.
I want to hear what's making 70-year-old men and women get chills.
You look it up
Please.
on YouTube. There's nothing. I tried to look up the lyrics for this song. I couldn't find them.
Weird.
mystery.
Very weird.
I know.
And every team now, every professional sports team that I've been to now, they don't have a song. You know, they give it, they're like, oh, AC/DC, that's our song, you know?
Yeah.
Or like, they don't have a song that I remember that makes me emotional. The only thing emotional about Minnesota sports is when they lose again. And then you get emotional and then you wonder why you're getting emotional because you're like, this is what happens. But
Why do I let them hurt me again?
Yeah.
Every year.
That's the only emotion I have is like weirdly hope and then disappointment and then confusion at my disappointment. That's really the.
Why did I get here again?
No,
Why did I let
that's
myself
the
get
cycle. It's optimism, then getting crushed by the results, and then disappointment in yourself for falling for it again. And then, the draft's coming right back up, baby. Turns out if they just get, you know,
Ex-player.
a power forward that's got some range, the Wolves are going to compete, baby.
And then they start the season, they win the first game, and you're like, this is it. Larry O'Brien
first two
trophy.
games, 2021, we're recording here, and and then Cat gets out, and it's just a nightmare for 6 games. Then he comes back, and then he gets COVID, and we're all hoping. Every single one of us is hoping for the best for Cat.
What's good news, Ryan, is in this story, they got really good to leave. So I think the T-Wolves are pretty safe. I don't think anyone is like, we want those Timberwolves in our city.
Thank God no one wants our shitty team.
You know, some of us here really love the Wolves, Nick, and I don't appreciate comments like that.
No, it's good. You'll have the Wolves for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You're going to make him cry. And speaking of crying.
Yes.
Oh,
did you
hang
cry?
on. Before we get into this, can I talk about them in the period from 84 to 96 when they didn't have an NFL team, when they got a CFL team?
They won the Grey Cup, Ryan.
They won the Grey Cup.
Maybe that's what we should do. The Vikings. Let's go to Canada. Twins. Canada. We're right there.
Yeah, we're right
there.
It's a 3-hour drive. We're there.
T-Wolves. T-Wolves. Let's go to Toronto. Well, I guess the Raptors, they're already in here. But
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg.
Sure,
The Winnipeg Wolves. I think we solved it.
Let's win a Grey Cup, baby. I think we're all thirsty for a championship in Minnesota.
They don't have a National Basketball League anywhere close to the scale. No, not on the scale of anywhere close to the scale of the NBA.
We don't need the scale of the NBA, Ryan. We're there for a championship.
We're there for a title, baby. That's it. And that's it.
My ass wants a Larry O.B., and I'm willing to wait for it. I'm willing to wait for it.
Okay. As the Hamilton lyrics start, let's keep on track as we jump to the year 1993. And this is an absolute gut punch for the Baltimore fans, but also a little miracle for fans of the Jacksonville Jaguars. As Jacksonville,
a miracle.
Jacksonville is awarded an NFL team. I just can't imagine the people of Baltimore that are like, Jacksonville?
Yeah.
Where is that?
We've got the Broma Seltzer Tower. What do you have, Jacksonville?
Calling the Jaguars a miracle for Jacksonville is like calling a flaming like bag of dog shit on your doorstep a miracle. You're stepping in poop, Brad.
I don't appreciate this.
You're stepping in poop.
I am a diehard, lifelong Jags fan because I bought a Jags hat when I was in Disney World in Florida as a child. So please respect my fandom.
And that's not a respectable story. Oh. That doesn't like make me be like, oh, okay. No, that doesn't make you a fan.
Well, I got a couple Reddit karma to back me up based on the story. All right.
Yeah, no,
All right. Some people in the Jaguars Reddit page appreciate it.
I buy into Brad's story 100%.
It's just disgusting.
That's a great reason to be a fan. If you're choosing to be a fan of a franchise that's not the greatest, I'm on board with it.
Thank you for putting it lightly, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Don't be a bandwagon fan. Don't cheer for the Lakers ever.
Well, okay, it's because this. All right, when I was growing up, I was the type of kid that was like, all right, my family roots for Team X. I'm rooting for Team Y. Like, I'm just a bad kid. All right.
Oh,
my
bad
family.
boy.
I'm a bad boy.
Okay.
Bad boy.
Okay. I'll bet the greens on your plate were half finished too, right, Brad?
I was pretty
badass, Brad.
So when my brother and my mom, not my dad, because we'll get to that, is rooting for the Minnesota Vikings, I'm like, I can't root for those losers.
Yeah, I'm only from. Oh yeah, those losers. I'm only from Minnesota.
Hey, born in Iowa, raised in Minnesota. Gross is right. I don't like it. All right, take that, Iowa. That's enemy number 3. We're making enemies here.
Well, let me expand on that. Iowa really sucks dick.
Okay,
Ooh.
I'm bringing it back. Can I bring it back?
Bring it back. Bring it back.
I'm bringing it back. And it's just my only point. I feel like at the end of each episode, Nick and Ryan get to make some points. And I'd like to make a point of how no one sees the irony in that the marching band never quit. They kept going, but they were waving giant white flags. That was never dawned on anybody. And the guy who sold his wedding ring so he could
Mr. Zeman, the president.
Was that the president? Head
yeah,
honcho?
that was John Zeman.
Okay,
the president of the band.
Sells his wedding ring for drumheads and then didn't tell her for 3 years and then chuckles about it. Wow.
Well,
that I'd get hit. I'd get hit. I'd get hit a lot.
His wife was 100% on board with the Colts marching band.
She was a flag bearer, I believe.
I think she was the flag captain.
Yeah.
So why not just be like,
yeah, why not tell her?
Why not tell her? Why steal it from her? I don't understand. I mean,
it's a good point. It's a very good point.
I just come on this show to point holes in other people's marriages, and I've done that 2 times tonight. So I'm doing a good job.
He's 2 for 2, folks, and wait for episode 3.
You're telling me you can't get 3?
I don't think so. I didn't encounter any other. I mean, the owner of the Colts obviously had some issues because his son was talking shit about him on a documentary. So that's.
Well, you should have seen him in his prime, Nick.
Yeah, when he was young.
When he was young, he was a good guy.
Alcoholism and his children died.
But the last 30, 40, I would say 50% of his life, kind of an asshole. But when he was young, when I wasn't alive, pretty good guy.
Yeah.
Good guy.
I showed up and this guy turns to a real piece of shit.
But I think the band is incredible. What they did was awesome. The story was so cool. And the characters in it.
But one of the stories that they end with, though. One of the stories they end with.
We should touch base about them building a stadium. Is that where you're going to hit?
No. First, I wanted to talk about how they actually finally bring politics into this.
Yeah,
all right. They were saying how, they needed to revamp the baseball and football stadium to show the NFL that they're ready for modern football of the time. And so they're trying to get legislation involved. And, obviously some of the local legislators are like, why the fuck would I spend money on this when there's more pressing needs? And so there's fight back and forth. And so Mr. Zeman and his fellow bandmates, they, create some flyers and they plan on meeting at the legislation building in the evening during one of the evening sessions and, hand out flyers and try to rally the legislators to think differently.
There's no public organization that supports this measure. Heck there isn't.
So Mr. Zeman shows up and he's all alone. He's like, wow, am I the only one here? Like, that's really sad. And so all of a sudden he starts playing the fight song because, that's what one would do, right? You're all by yourself. You're trying to rally. You play the fight song. All of a sudden, he starts hearing other players starting the fight song, and they start coming from every other street because he was apparently wrong in the directions. And as they all come together in the legislation, the politicians are showing up, and these old men are crying. They are crying over this fight song. They then join in legislation and they pass. They pass the laws needed to build a new stadium. It's just the power of this fight song is unbelievable. What can
And
it do?
They still don't play it.
And they still
Like
don't play it.
It's an incredible song, and like everyone's getting emotional when they're telling the story. I mean, it sounds wild. I can't imagine like living by that Capitol building and being like, "What's going on right now?" and just seeing the band out there just playing the fight song and shit. Like it would be wild. It'd be so cool, and it would be like, obviously, we need a football team because people are like playing, and a whole band is just standing outside playing the fight song from a team that hasn't existed in what, 5 years at that point.
It would probably make some people cry.
A
That
lot
scene.
of people. Ryan,
Ryan, did you cry?
Yeah, of course I did.
When did you cry,
any
Ryan?
movie that I get emotionally attached to, I'm gonna end up crying. And
What
this
part
is one
got
of
the
them.
waterworks going?
This the band scene and when they finally got a football team back in Baltimore, and everybody's like, we had mixed emotions because it's great that we're getting an NFL team back, but you really feel for the people in Cleveland. And I was like,
Fun fact,
my God.
little family history. That is the moment that my father will never forgive the NFL, and still to this day will never forgive the NFL.
Damn.
As a
When
born
the
and raised
Browns-
Cleveland man, he was so pissed that they let Mr. Modell move to Baltimore and ditch Cleveland.
But when
All
did
for
the
the
Browns came
money, baby.
back?
They
Browns
came
came
back.
back.
They came back, but it
Yeah.
wasn't the same
It was
team.
4 years later.
Wasn't the same team.
No,
And
it
he's
was not
still,
the same.
now he's rooting for him. He watches them, but he will never forgive them.
No,
You know what's
leaving
funny?
Cleveland.
I thought you were talking about Art Modell. It's like, Brad, he's been dead since 2012. But yeah, no, I get it. It's your dad.
My father.
Yeah.
My dad rooted for the Browns when he moved to America from England because they had Wolverhampton Wolves colors on the,
What a sad team to choose. It's like me.
well, because he just
it's like
he
me
just moved to
choosing
America.
Jacksonville.
Yeah, he just moved to America. He doesn't know. It's all that's on TV is American football at that time, and he was just like, "Well, they're black and orange. I'm a Browns fan."
What city did he move to?
New York.
Now I'm surprised he didn't become a Giants fan, Jets fan, Patriots fan.
Nah. That's how much he loved the Wolverhampton Wanderers.
That's how much the
baby.
colors meant to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though the colors are significantly different between the Cleveland Browns and the Wolverhampton Wanderers, it doesn't. They had one matching color, and that was all he needed.
All right, Brad. Why don't we wrap up with? Well, we'll do the segment. Did you cry? Ryan started. Ryan cried 2 times.
Oh yeah, I only cried 2 times. That's freaking badass for me. I cried a badass amount of tears during this movie.
2 times. I gotta say I cry at a ton of movies. Movies get to me for sure. I remember the hardest I've ever cried at a movie was Radio, which
Yeah, that's
Good
a
one.
that's a classic movie to cry at, Nick.
it just hit my heartstrings, And then I watched more movies, and I'm blanking right now with the actor who played Radio.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
Thank you. But I watched more movies with him in it, and then it kind of I don't know, seeing that actor being not Radio for some
Did you
reason
see
helped,
Snow Dogs?
It hardened you.
I did see Snow Dogs.
What an absolute legendary movie.
All I've got to say is I'm a cat guy. But I did watch Snow Dogs. I didn't cry though. But Radio got to me. But this movie did not get me going. I'm sure I mean it's 30 for 30. there's not a lot of dry male eyes in the audience.
Well,
Was a
Brad,
emotional
these
robot.
two eyes
As an
weren't dry
emotional
male
robot,
eyes.
no, I did not. I did not cry.
Are we
It's
ever gonna get you?
It's such a difficult thing to get me to cry. Last movie that I remember crying to, and one of the only ones, was Interstellar when I first saw it. When I was the scene of McConaughey watching his children grow up
Ridiculous.
and just seeing that
don't get me
man
wrong.
act.
I cried during that scene too, but lower the bar, baby. Let the tears flow.
I'm working on it, Ryan. I'm working on it.
Survive in advance. If you don't cry during
Oh
Survive in
my!
advance,
Are you kidding me?
we're stopping the podcast because
No,
that's obviously you're an animal.
We can go before without bias. If you're not shedding tears, you're gonna be looking at cross eyes from me, baby.
Oh, that's a lot of pressure.
I'll probably cry during the next one. Small potatoes. They form this little league. We can talk about it next podcast, but I'm probably
I'm
gonna
excited
cry
for it. Brad, do your
Yes,
do your
for
closing
for our next podcast. For our next podcast, we will talk about, as Ryan said, Small Potatoes, Who Killed the USFL, which is the story of the rise and fall of the United States Football League, and
Hell yeah.
features an interview from former President Donald Trump. So stay tuned for
Woo!
our third episode on the Small Potatoes. And thank you again for listening. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at 30 for 30 in 30 podcast. You can see it in our Zoom background. If you're on YouTube, brought to you by Nick. Also, that is 30, the word for 30, the word in 30, and the word podcast. Again, 30 for 30 in 30 podcast. And please send us any questions you have to any of those social media channels. And if we get enough, we can do a fan question episode. I really want to do one, so please send it our way. And finally, please rate and review wherever you listen to our podcast and give us those 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars.
Hey, and you guys got to stay 30 out there, right, baby?
Yeah,
Stay 30, baby.
Go ahead and stay 30.
Stay
I thought we were
30.
gonna do a thing like stay 30.
30.
And folks, stay
30.
30.
We nailed it the third time, baby.